Merry Christmas from all of us. Well, both of us at the Silent Why podcast.
Merry Christmas.
I'm Claire Sands.
To Claus.
Nice.
And I'm husband and co-host Chris.
Christmas.
See what we did there?
So
That's
good.
clever.
Yeah.
We're so bright.
We are. And today we're mixing it up because it's a Friday.
Yeah, get that. It's a
I
bit
know,
different.
not a Tuesday for once. Do you have that Friday feeling?
I do, absolutely, yeah. In a Christmas jumper, dancing on the ceiling, Lionel Richie style, and just being generally quite excited that Christmas is coming.
Excellent,
And
that's
I am
good.
quite excited as well.
That is good. Because, yeah, last year we did a whole episode on your loss of Christmas spirit. It was all quite a bit like, I was going to say depressing, that's a bit extreme.
It's
But
unfair.
yeah, it wasn't depressing. It was a bit like you admitting over the years you felt like you'd lost your Christmas spirit.
It was really helpful doing that, actually, and we'll come on to that in a bit.
And as most of you probably know, this is a podcast and we're on a mission, usually, to find 101 different types of loss. And this is actually episode 60, which is quite exciting.
That's pretty good going
Yeah.
for our first year and a bit.
Well, I think we've got about 124 episodes published, but 60 official Silent Why episodes, because the rest are blogs or like announcement type episodes.
And with our mission to find and explore 101 different types of permanent loss, where are we in that number?
Number 40 is the first one in the new year.
Oh, nearly at 40.
Yeah, we're not even halfway.
Do you remember when we did the first 10? We were like, 10
Yeah.
down.
Now I get a bit nervous because I'm like, 40 sounds like a lot, but the fact it's not halfway makes me like, there's a lot of losses to find, but they keep coming up all the time, so I'm hopeful we'll get there.
So what we're doing in this episode?
Well, we're talking about Christmas because we do know it is still hard for a lot of people. Even if we've kind of maybe adjusted our take on it a little bit, it is a tough time of year. It's never easy. And not just for those facing loss and grief, but also for those who feel like, for whatever reason, they just don't fit into that typical harmonious kind of ideal family Christmas that we kind of see everywhere around us at this time of year.
And we're absolutely not alone in this episode. We've got a selection of previous Silent Why guests who are going to take part in this. They've all provided a little bit of a recording, which we've got the joy of putting together for you to hear. Just give you an insight into a brief glimpse of something they find really hard at Christmas, but also something that they get comfort from, that they get hope from, because this is really important about what we do. That yes, of course, we want to share the difficult, the challenge, the trial, but we really want to emphasise the hope, the joy that can be found in every type of loss.
And we've done content on this before, so if you're feeling like you need a little bit of help to get through this season, there are other episodes that we've done previously and blogs. And on Tuesday, we've got a special little episode coming out entitled How Do I Find What I Need?, which gives you an idea of where you can find other stuff we've done just to help you through this season for whatever you need.
I look forward to that.
Excellent.
On Tuesday. So to get us going right now, as I mentioned, last year was really brilliant in the sense of just giving me things to think about and challenges to throw around that maybe I hadn't considered before. And one of those was, the episode we did was the loss of my Christmas spirit. Because as a child, I loved Christmas. Super exciting time. Really loved that time of year. Everything about it was brilliant. Family, food, friends, fun. All of the F's that you can think of filled that festive season for me. Well, not all the F's. Don't give me a look like that. I was too young for that. And I think one of the things that came through, just how can I try and bring some of that back? How can I get over the sadness that I really missed that childish enjoyment of Christmas and New Year? And the one word for me, intentionality. I was intentional about a lot more last Christmas, which helped a lot. Didn't get it all right. Made lots of mistakes. My menu fell out a little bit. One example, decorating the Christmas tree. I hadn't realised at the time sort of how key that is for you to do it together as a thing in partnership, and I sort of glossed over that and didn't give it much thought. But we were intentional about putting things in the diary, about putting things in our marriage, bits in our day that would actually create little events, little memories, little sparks of joy. That's using somebody's phrase. Is it Marie Kondo?
Yes.
Spark joy.
Spark joy.
Okay. Yeah, being intentional. I think that was my headline from last year about something that I found really helpful that I'm definitely doing again. Well, all year, really, being more intentional about making things happen. Any takeaways from last year and the impact of the Silent Why podcast on you and that whole season?
Yeah, I think I've found it helpful in the last year, acknowledging that we found Christmas hard. I think that is helpful because there is this kind of expectation that you should just try and enjoy Christmas or find ways to enjoy it. And it was just helpful to admit, actually, we do struggle, and put it out there in the world and find out that other people struggle as well. And then since then, we've done a year's worth of podcasts, and I've found that there's so many people finding this season difficult or stepping out of it completely to avoid it. And actually, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. You know, you can't really change that. You can't force it to be something it's not. And that's really helped me off the back of that. And then, like you said, being more intentional, working out that, yes, Christmas is always going to be a little bit difficult for us because we just won't ever have that family dynamic that maybe we would have liked. But there are things that we can do and create to make it special for us that we really enjoy. And so setting out new traditions and things like doing the tree together, or acknowledging, you know what, I love putting lights up around the house. And that's not just, oh, I'm just going to put lights up. That's actually a specific intentional thing to give me joy that I can enjoy as an adult, that's very intentional, that, I don't know, it just gives me something as I'm walking around that makes me feel good. And it's finding those things and putting them in place, but doing it as, like you said, a very intentional thing, and creating new traditions. You know, this year we bought a Christmas candle, and we're kind of lighting that, and we've pinched that off our good friends who also do it. And that, again, has been an intentional thing. I think in the past would have been like, oh, let's not bother. You know, it costs money. Do we need a Christmas candle? But now we're like, no, we need Christmas traditions. We need to create our own things that are happening. And that makes me feel quite positive and hopeful. And I like that we've got that kind of mindset.
Definitely. Yes, shout out to Alex and Amanda for their Christmas candle idea.
Yes.
And it does cost money. We found it, this particular candle, we found it on offer, which we were really chuffed about. And then a week later found the same thing on an even greater offer.
Yeah.
Like...
That was a bit of a depressing Christmas moment.
Yeah, sorry about that. What you mentioned about lights actually has come up a few times in thought and conversation. This sounds like some sort of clever title of something, but it's not, like a sermon point. Decorate the darkness. That I think, you know, for me, just looking at the British culture and the love of decorating houses, whether there's sort of love of the Christmas season, whether there's faith, religion, whatever, none of that matters. People love decorating the darkness, putting lights up on the houses. You know, it's a fairly gloomy time of year. The sky's heavy. It gets dark early. But yeah, I've really found that inside the home and outside the home, it lifts your spirit when you can decorate the darkness.
Nice. I'm not at all surprised it sounds like a sermon, because most of what Chris does during the week when he thinks deeply about something ends up coming out in a sermon point that has alliteration.
I do like alliteration, lists of 3 and whatever else. Yeah, important stuff. So intentionality for me. Summarise your takeaway from last year again.
Intentionality.
Great. Were you intentional about that?
Yes.
Repeating mine.
I was very intentional about intentionality.
So let's bring it up to where we are now. And just to remind you on that point as well, we're going to hear from several 8 or 9 guests that we've spoken to, people that you've heard on the Silent Way podcast, just sharing something that they find hard about Christmas, but something that brings them comfort as well. There's a really lovely listen, so stay tuned for that. It's coming up this year. Where are you this year with Christmas, and any challenges that are maybe new, fresh, that you weren't expecting, didn't see coming?
I think the hardest thing I've found about this year, and I don't think it's just me, because it does seem like a theme with a few people I've spoken to, is just the kind of craziness of it. Which is weird, because every year, you know, Christmas is always busy for people. But I think people were expecting a quieter one this year, maybe on some level, because we'd had COVID years which were quieter, and, you know, there's not as many gatherings anymore. Christmas parties and stuff, a lot of those have dropped off because they didn't happen for COVID, and a lot of businesses haven't really picked them up again and things like that. So there's not been many get-togethers, and I think a lot of people just thought, oh, that makes it quieter. But actually, there's been a lot of like pressure and stress from other areas. There's a lot of sickness around. So a lot of people are feeling ill and under the weather, which kind of, you know, impedes what you're trying to do. The postal system over here is a mess with strikes and parcels piling up. So a lot of the presents we've been ordering haven't arrived on time or might not come before Christmas. There's all these extra little stresses that we didn't expect. And a lot of people I've spoken to have sort of said they're struggling with the fact they would have liked to have taken time, like Advent, for example, to lead into Christmas and just process a bit more and think. And instead, like I said on my December blog, it just feels like we've just kind of got through November and been spat into December, and we're just trying to get through it and sort things out in time for Christmas Day. And that's been quite stressful. So actually, although intentionally I feel in a better place in my mind as far as Christmas goes, and, you know, not having a family and childlessness and all that kind of thing, I feel like there's been another load of different problems that have come in to make it stressful. And a lot of the stuff I really wanted to do that I thought I would enjoy or make or be part of, I haven't done. And I've just been doing a lot of stuff I need to do, which has not been particularly fun. So it's been very different in that respect for me.
Do you think that's partly due to awareness in a way? And by the way, I do want to say, if you've not heard Claire's or read Claire's blog, The Season of December, as yet, it's brilliant. Really, really worth a listen. So, yeah, do go and check that out. It will challenge, it will inspire, it will encourage, motivate, all that you need this time of year. Yeah, awareness. I wonder, because there are so many places now where we can learn stuff, we can be challenged, social media. Every time you open your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, there's depending on who you follow, of course, there's things on there that teach you, encourage you, there's quotes, there's whatever that inspires you, there's bits of teaching here, there's bits of philosophy, all sorts of things that just make us more aware of where we want to be and give us bits of advice that we think, yes, we're going to heed that. And so when we don't, it just gets all the more frustrating that, I was supposed to be doing this. I was supposed to make time and I didn't. I was supposed to be intentional about this and I haven't been. So it almost heaps up the frustration or the feeling like you've got it wrong because you've not been able to. But previous years, maybe 10 years ago, you wouldn't have even been aware of that stuff because you wouldn't have had 40,000 voices telling you to try this, do this, take a bit of time to yourself, enjoy some rest, switch off, turn your phone off.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Especially when you follow a lot of creative accounts, which I started doing because I just like seeing creative content. It's really lovely to see people making things. I get a lot of joy out of that throughout the year. But then it comes to Christmas and you think, I could make that for a gift. Or I could wrap my presents just like this so I can slot the little gift card in the front and it fits into the paper and that looks really cool. It was really low maintenance. All this sort of thing. I think these are the things you want to do, and because you can't, maybe it makes that gap wider between the Christmas that you wanted and you pictured and the one you actually have. So yeah, for sure, that's not making us any happier, seeing everything we can't do. And I'm no doubt if there's families out there, but there's a lot of accounts of people posting, their family photo with them all in matching pajamas. Well, that in itself is probably a massive stress for a lot of people. I don't have time to go and buy all the pajamas that are needed in that size, or they didn't arrive on time, or I don't have a family that are all together in one place, or we've got a family member missing, so how do I represent that in the photo? That one idea, which is a lovely idea, that probably creates a huge amount of stress on a lot of people thinking, I'd love to do that, but they can't and they don't, and then they feel like they've failed in some way, which just is not what the season's about. But yeah, I think you're right. Without social media, we'd all be a lot happier.
Well, we wanted, didn't we, even on the theme of presents, we wanted and we thought about, going back 4 weeks maybe, to consider making Christmas presents. So as part of this cost of living crisis that we're currently experiencing, we thought, hey, how great, because you're crocheting some brilliant things at the moment. It's quite new to you, but you're churning out some brilliant stuff. And we said, how about you crochet stuff? How about you make stuff? And so you're sort of bringing this stuff from the past where we used to hand make more gifts, but it just doesn't fit now because it's so time consuming that our lives, we really struggle to make the time to make gifts. It's so much quicker just to go online, stick it in a basket, shop, check out, have it delivered to you.
You say that, normally it would be. That's been the stress of this year. Nothing's arrived on time. So then you do start thinking, I could have made something so much easier than trying to sort out this stuff getting here. So I think that's why it's been all these unexpected stresses. But like you said, cost of living is another thing that will be stressing a lot of people out as well, because you want to do Christmas well, but actually, financially, a lot of people are going to spend a lot of money this Christmas and then really struggle in January, February, because they haven't really accounted for the fact that we're all going to be struggling a bit with heating bills and things. So yeah, it's a funny year. I sort of feel like it's a bit quieter on some fronts, busier on other fronts we weren't expecting. It's just been a bit of a weird year like that.
Well, with that in mind, all of that in mind, Christmas Eve tomorrow, what do you think you can put in place to help with that?
Well, one of the big reasons that I feel like I'm not finding this Christmas too daunting with the whole family not having children aspect is because we're not going to be here for Christmas. We're going to be away, which is the first time we've ever done that, just the two of us. We've had Christmases just the two of us, but we've never actually gone away just the two of us over Christmas. We've said we would for 20 years probably, but we never have. It feels very different. So I think the lovely thing about that is with all of this craziness, I feel like there comes a point when I have to drop it and we go away, and I can't be busy then because we're going to be somewhere else. So all the stuff that would kind of get in the way at home that I'd be picking up and carrying through can't happen. And I think that's going to be brilliant, because otherwise it would just continue, I think. I'd be sitting around Christmas Day or Boxing Day thinking, I've got some spare time. Maybe I'll just go and do some podcast editing. Maybe I'll write a bit of a blog about this, or maybe I'll do this. And you just don't stop. So I think that's been perfect for helping that kind of come to an end.
Pleased to hear it. Be nice to go away with you.
Oh, thanks.
As for me, I think one of the things for me this Christmas, that I've just noticed that's quite a new feeling, quite a new thought, is that of just the passage of time. Time is absolutely flying by, and I found a few times that I'm stopping myself getting almost too excited or looking forward to various elements of the before, the during, the after, because I think, well, it's going to be gone so quickly that just, don't bother doing this now, because before you know it, we'll be in the new year and we're back to routine again. I've got some time off work, all that sort of stuff. I found myself just thinking, don't look forward too much to having a few days off work, because before you know it, you're back at work again. And that almost feels like that's wrong, that I'm stopping myself from feeling the feelings, from letting myself go, just for the sake of, time is going really quickly. We've got to this point in December really quickly. It's like, oh my word, it feels like 2 minutes since we were talking about November and fireworks and whatever else. And now here we are, just a couple of days, to Christmas. So yeah, I've just found the impact of time flying, changing some of my thoughts and plans in not the right way. So I need to put that right and just let go.
So with all the ways that you've felt better about Christmas this year after last year and the previous 12 months, is there anything that's still hard about it?
There are elements. I don't find it a hard time of year. I think I find there's a lot of conflict in, like, inner conflict with thoughts, with feelings. If I let myself get carried away, I probably could in envy or just bitterness of not having what I see others have. But I'm doing a lot better at not actually sort of sitting on that, I reckon. So yes, I'm not finding it a hard time of the year, but I do recognise that for me there is lots of conflicting thoughts. I love the stuff, but I do love the space. I love the fun, but there's still routine. I think just knowing about that, expecting that to be the case, is something that I can then navigate while it's happening.
Because this year, the stuff aspect won't really be there so much, because we're not really doing presents for each other because we're going away. We're going to, do some nice things while we're away, hopefully, and maybe buy some things there. But there isn't really the same. Normally, we would have at least maybe one biggish present for each other, or we'd have stuff that we've been, and there's literally nothing this year. So the stuff thing won't be there. So it'll be interesting to see how you feel about that.
Oh, definitely. I can guarantee there will be a very small percentage of my mood on Christmas Day, opening presents, that will be like, oh, only had one present. I think, again, that's not necessarily a good thing, but I had a really privileged upbringing in just like having a lot of presents. Usually for us, we had quite a large family. So as a boy, there would be, presents. You'd start the day with a stocking full of presents. I'd wake up in the morning as a child, and at the end of my bed would be a massive stocking full of presents. I'm not talking like really expensive gifts.
Oranges and nuts.
Some paper clips, orange, but it was gifts to unwrap, whatever the value, the content of that inside. But you'd start the day with a sack full of presents, and then the day would continue with a theme of receiving lots of gifts. I had a couple of brothers, so a present from brothers, parents, 2 sets of grandparents, aunties, uncles, cousins, extended family. So there was always at least 20 presents, maybe even up to 50 little gifts to open on Christmas Day. Incredible. And now, when it's like 2.
Hey, there's a lot of pressure on me to provide 50 gifts.
No, I don't want them. Not something that I want to indulge in myself. I want to be free of that. To have gratitude for what I've got now without needing more of it. But there will definitely be a little twinge inside me of like, not getting what I'm familiar with having had in the past.
Like oranges and nuts. I could do that.
Oranges and nuts. I don't like nuts. Give me an orange. The orange was never wrapped, by the way. That was just like the one gift. I don't know what the tradition was there. Mum, Dad, why spend so much time wrapping all the presents and just not wrapping an orange?
I was picturing like a whole bag of oranges that was separately wrapped so that you could have up to
no,
like 20
always a giant orange.
Giant orange?
Yeah. Clearly, with my parents'
Are
generation,
you sure
clearly a tradition.
It wasn't that you were smaller, so the orange felt giant?
Definitely not. The orange in the stocking was about the size of a basketball. Impossible to peel. Peel is not wrapping paper. It's not substitute wrapping. Anyway, I'm carried away. So to bring us back on topic, in summary, what will always be hard for me will be comparison. If I compare with the past, things that I've enjoyed, if I compare with those around me that just remind me of things I don't have, like children, I'm never going to be a dad. Well, don't think so. Never say never. Never going to be a dad. So, I need to stop comparison, all sides, and I'll do all right. But how about you?
Yeah, I think for me, things that will hang around that I'll never fully get rid of would be similar things, really. Probably, well, not the presents.
Not the giant orange.
Not the giant orange, for sure.
Never want one of them hanging around.
Never had one of those. It'll be more things like, just not having that family union. I think when people are buying presents for their children or talking about having something and they're just like, oh, so-and-so's going to love this, even if it's small, there's always something in me that just thinks that must be a very special feeling to get something for your own child, know they're going to love it, wrap it, have that anticipation, just look forward to their face and them opening it on Christmas Day. And then just watching that joy of kids enjoying opening all those presents with their giant orange, that feels like something that is something to miss out on. And I will always miss out on that. And like I said in my blog, I don't think any amount of being around other people's children and watching that is ever going to be even close to being what that feels like. So that will always be a bit difficult. And I get the impression that even as we get older, not being a grandparent in that scenario will also be difficult. So I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I think it's sort of finding things to do, not that distract you from it, but that kind of, maybe it is distraction. Maybe you do need to be distracted at that time of year from it, because if not, like you said, a lot of these things can pull you down. They can really pull you into a sense of feeling very depressed about Christmas and everything. And I like the idea of getting away every now and then and kind of avoiding it in some ways or doing it differently, but I don't want to be someone who always does that. I don't want to always avoid Christmas. I want to find my way through it to enjoy it. And actually, one of the voices we've got coming up later mentioned that she finds her own way to have like childish pleasure at Christmas, things that bring her joy, and just know that it's not selfish. And that really spoke to me, because I thought, I'd love to be able to put things into my Christmas that I selfishly enjoy, but know that it's not a selfish thing. I'm creating a time of year that I really thoroughly look forward to and can't wait to do, to bring my own joy that I won't get from being a parent.
Totally hear you in that. And I think it's clear that the value for you that we need to work on and make sure we do things, is to do things differently, is not just to repeat the same experience. I think we have to make experiences for ourselves, because we can't rely on others to do that. With the parenting, as that's the main example you used, I think from the outside looking in, families, there are lots of new experiences when you have children, whether it's a nativity at school, concerts, services at church, whatever it may be with your children. There are lots of new experiences to enjoy and that just create new memories. We don't have that, so our Christmas this year could look exactly the same as Christmas last year and the year before, unless we take steps to do things differently. And I think it's really important for you and for me, because of our personalities, that we do things differently. So doing this Christmas differently feels quite exciting, because we know we're not going to just be going through the routine of Christmas then straight into the routine of New Year.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't really thought of it like that, but you're right. Every year is different, whether it is those nativity early days or whether it's going to be the kids that are older, so they want to do their own thing on Christmas Day, so you find that the family dynamic shifts again, or maybe you can spend more adult time with adult people, or as they get older they might bring partners or girlfriends or boyfriends round. That changes again. Then as they get older they might not be there for Christmas, so that shifts it. Then you might have grandchildren coming in. Every year is going to look a little bit different, and they're going to have a different take on the season themselves. And to think that let's say we were together 50, 60 years, to think of all those Christmases could look exactly the same and just be us on our own if that's what we chose, I mean, that would be very depressing. So I think it's good that we're noticing it now.
We've got a giant orange.
Yeah, right.
We just play with
we'll
that.
Get out the giant orange
Kick it
every
around
year.
the garden.
Who can find the biggest orange?
Yeah, certainly. And another thought as well is that even buying gifts, because you love buying gifts and presents, so you put a lot of research, a lot of time and effort into buying good presents to gift people.
I hope they're good. There might be people listening being like,
nope,
she doesn't really get that as good as she thinks she
you're
does.
wrong. You're wrong there. You should have seen that cat she got me last year.
I literally dread being the aunt or uncle or cousin or in-law or whatever it is, where people are just like, here we go, it's one of her presents, where they know when they open it, I would have got it wrong. That's my worst fear. It's not my worst fear ever, but it's up there as being the person who just gets it horribly wrong. We all had an aunt or uncle like that gave us something and we're just like, what was that?
I will always be grateful for the de-icer and shortbread that Christmas.
What does fascinate me about like time around Christmas and the busyness of it all with family life and things is it doesn't matter what stage you're at, Christmas and every other time of the year really feels busy. So like, the two of us, it's just the two of us. But life feels busy at this time of year. Like I literally feel like I couldn't squeeze much more in if I needed to, while keeping everything else going. I look at people with young children and they would say there's literally no time. I'd probably look at our life and think, wow, must be a lot more spare time. I look at them and think, wow, how do you fit that in? And then you look at people whose kids have gone off to school and I hear them saying things like, oh my word, I've got like 3-4 days before the kids are off. And then they lose time at that point because they've got the kids around all the time. But the previous Christmas or a few Christmases ago, they had the kids around all the time because they weren't at school yet. They still managed. And it feels like every shift and change with life, whether it's teenagers, whatever it is, grandparents, it's always a busy time of year. Like there's nobody who's just sat there like, you know what? I'm done. This year's quiet.
Do you feel totally imprisoned by that? Or do you know that you have the power to change that?
I don't feel too imprisoned by it. We even had this discussion recently where I was saying to you, you were saying, I need to get to the end of my to-do list, or I want to get to the end of to-do lists. And I was saying to you, you realise you'll never get there because to-do lists, they just never end in certain areas. You could keep going on forever. So at some point you have to make a decision. I'm not going to be able to do this and just stop and then pick it up again. And I do feel more comfortable with that than I think some people do. So I can get to a point where I feel like it's building too much in me or in my life. And I'm like, you know what? I have to stop. I have to find a way to make this stop and rest and recoup. And I think that's because I've been there and I haven't done that and I've just paid the price for it. So I don't think I'm too bad at that, but I think some people would really struggle with that.
Well, we're heading towards hearing from a selection of other voices, talking about what they find hard at Christmas, but also what brings them comfort at Christmas. What's bringing you comfort this year?
I think it's probably what we spoke about at the beginning, that I know I can be intentional, and I'm doing things intentionally, and I can do things different, and that's okay. And I'm not alone in doing that. All the guests we've met are doing their own thing at Christmas to make it different and to make it intentional and to find joy and comfort in it. And I think it's knowing that you have the control of that. So I have control of how well my Christmas goes. And I have the power to be able to say no to stuff that's going to make me just sad and stressed. And I have the ability to say yes to things that I really want and love. And that's okay. And I think that's bringing me a lot more peace.
Can you boil that down to one thing?
No.
So how would you write that on a card for you next year to say, here's my tip from Christmas 2022 to bring you comfort in Christmas 2023?
Do Christmas your way.
Ah, thank you. My way.
No, not your way. My way.
Christmas my way would be fab.
Do Christmas my way. That sounds really selfish and angry though. Do Christmas your way. I'm sticking with it. What about you?
For me, we've covered much of this already, but just knowing that things look different this year, things will be different this year, is quite exciting. So I'm not waiting for it to happen, then to judge afterwards. That was quite different. I know Christmas is going to be different this year because we've taken ourselves away from anything we've ever done before. So, let's hope it's a good experience. It might be a bad experience, but I know it'll be a different experience. And we will come through that and it will give us new memories. We'll be at a different place geographically. It'll be the two of us together. We always do brilliantly well when we're in sort of new little adventures. So knowing that Christmas this year is going to be different is bringing me great comfort.
And I think off the back of that, I've realised that, we're different people every year. All of us are different every Christmas. So every Christmas can be different. So if people are stuck on a treadmill of doing the same Christmas every year or alternating, doing that whole parent thing, just know you can break out of that. You can make it different. If there's something about Christmas you don't like, you have the power to change it.
I'm going to end with my sermon point. So I'm going to write myself a greetings card for next Christmas. So, Dear Chris, for Christmas 2023, dare to do it different, Lee.
Who's Lee?
Dare to do it different.
Lee got cut.
Is it different or differently? Dare to do it differently.
I want to watch you write this card out.
Pass me the Tipex. Right, so let's hear from a selection of wonderful souls that were featured on Souls. It's a bit weird.
But there are souls.
Let's hear from some wonderful voices of those who we've had the pleasure and the privilege of speaking to as part of the Silent White podcast. A couple of elements, you'll hear the voices talking through, one about something they find really hard about Christmas, and then the second bit, how they're finding comfort, how they're finding hope this Christmas. And it's just worth noting that these individuals, you won't hear it in what they're saying, but from a real range of background and experiences, having lost loved ones young through to old, maybe relationships, maybe loss of senses, other elements as well. So yeah, a real range of experiences from each of them.
We just wanted to include some other people in this because we know a lot of people do find Christmas hard. So we wrote out to our guests and said if anyone wants to send us something to just explain what they're doing or how they feel at Christmas, and how they've found some comfort in it and some good things in it, then please let us know. And these lovely people sent us their clips for us to play.
And they're accompanied by the wonderfully talented fingers of my eldest brother, my favourite pianist, John Sands. Over to them.
More and more, I find Christmas hard because eventually the season ends and the decorations must be put away. The one thing I take comfort in is that more and more I am learning to cherish the memories while I am living them, because I realize the season won't last forever, and that's the deal.
I find Christmas hard because so often the real meaning of Christmas is obscured by the razzmatazz of other things which are lovely, but should also include the true meaning. The one thing I take comfort from is that the true meaning of God's love for us doesn't change whether we remember it or not.
I find Christmas hard because everyone else is talking about spending time with their families, and it makes me miss my husband all the more because he was my family. So with him gone, the lack of other people is very obvious. So I really miss him and being able to share with him how much both of us disliked Christmas, even when he was alive. I take comfort from the fact that him not being here liberates me from having to do anything that I don't want to do. It gives me permission to say, I'm going to go away, I'm going to ignore Christmas altogether, and nobody questions that because I can say it's because I miss him, which it is. So there's a liberation in being able to say no to all the things that I don't want to do.
I find Christmas tough because I'm on my own and my children live abroad and I can go to friends, but it isn't the same as having your own family around you. So I often, and this year I'm doing the same, I go on retreat and I find that really soothing for my soul. The one thing that I enjoy doing at Christmas, because I am on my own, is to light a candle for everyone else who is also on their own, or who might be feeling lonely or abandoned, or is having a really difficult time in a family situation. So I just really enjoy holding that space for everyone to have a little bit of peace in their hearts, however difficult things might be.
Christmas reminds me of past times. They may have been fun, but they may have been sad too. Yet Christmas is a story of hope in hard and cold times. In my situation and devastation, I've had to move from a position of certainty to a position of uncertainty. I have found faith has to be restored, and this means hope is reignited.
I find Christmas hard because our son was born on January 4th and died on January 5th, the next day. And in our faith tradition, we celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. And for years, my family would sing the song of the 12 days of Christmas beginning on Christmas Day, one new verse every day, all the way until January 6th. But after John Paul died, it felt terrifying because every day we were getting one more day closer to the 11th day of Christmas when he wouldn't be here anymore. One thing I take comfort from at Christmas is that as a woman of faith, the Holy Family was a mess. So at Christmas, I know that I can be in grief and find the beauty and know that I am not alone in the middle of the mess that I'm in, and it doesn't have to be perfect or shiny, but it can be beautiful and hard and scary and sad and joyful all at the same time. It helps me to give myself permission to just be however we need to be at Christmas.
I suppose what I find hard at Christmas is that it's both my mum's birthday in the lead up to Christmas, and it was also one of her favourite times of year to be with family, and particularly the music. She loved listening to all of the Christmas music at Christmas time, but it is what we can continue to enjoy and to value is the lovely carols that are sung at this time of year, and also the traditions that she instilled in us that we continue in her absence, but also remembering her in them.
I find Christmas hard because last year my mom passed away at the age of 92, and my first Christmas without her was very hard. I love Christmas movies, the Hallmark Christmas movies, and I couldn't even watch those Christmas movies. I couldn't put up a Christmas tree because she wasn't here to do it with me and to watch the Christmas movies with me. And it was very, very difficult. I didn't do the Christmas things that I always used to do with my mom, but God pulled us through, and this is now another Christmas without her. It's not as painful as it was last year, but it is still painful. What I find comforting though is that there's a special Christmas pudding that she used to make, and I've made that last year and I'm making it again this year. She made the pudding, she made a special kind of a ginger cool drink, and every time I do those, it's like she's still with me and telling me, put a little bit of this in, put a little bit of that in. It's very comforting, and I get excited because I still have that piece of her with me.
The Christmas season is really hard for me because it's a reminder of all that I've lost. The joy, the happy families, the celebrations. It's just not the same once you're grieving. My favorite way to cope with the holiday season is to skip it. I have really taken the liberty of skipping things that don't feel good to me without apology. I have to take care of myself in this fragile time.
I find Christmas hard because, as a child, Christmas felt like the entire month of December, and our family had a collection of cherished traditions and festivities that made it special, which I still miss to this day because most of them I will never be able to replicate without my own family in the same way. The one thing that brings me comfort at Christmas is just remembering that this holiday is actually supposed to be a reminder of hope and reconciliation. It's just as much about the future as it is about the past. And what reminds me the most about that is some traditional Christmas carols, like the ones that sing "A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn," or "The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight," and they remind me that there is hope for tomorrow.
I find Christmas hard because I haven't been able to have children, and I always see this time of year as for little ones to enjoy, and that it's all about giving and being there to cheer them up and make this time special for them. The one thing that has helped me and given me comfort during this time is to get in touch with the little me inside and to allow her to play and explore and have fun and to lighten up and to give some of what I give so generously to other people to myself as well, and not see this as a selfish act, but to see this as an extremely necessary, nourishing part of well-being and getting into the Christmas spirit. It's the best gift that I can give myself, is to ramp up my own self-care, my own play, and my own little parts of adventure. I am sending everybody well wishes and blessings and love during this Christmas period.
So there you have it. Really lovely to hear those voices. Thank you so much. If you want to hear more from them, flick back through our episodes in the last year and a bit.
Yep, I'll put their names in full in the show notes. And we just want to wish you all a happy Christmas, but we know that not every Christmas is happy for everybody, because there are times when you're going through grief or loss and you can't just prioritise Christmas lights. You can't just put things in place intentionally, because that's just not possible. So we want to recognise that all Christmases are different and they're not all happy. But we can all have hope. And we really hope this Christmas that you do have hope and that you can find hope. So we're going to wish you a hopey Christmas.
A hopey Christmas.
Instead of a happy Christmas. And a very healthy and hopey start to 2023 as well.
Ho, 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 ho.
P.
P. Ho, ho, ho.
P.
Christmas. Hopey Christmas. That was terrible.